Thank you. I feel only wanted this song to continue. We'll get to that later. Brothers and sisters, good evening in Shagwanas, the headquarters of the United National Congress. I want to begin by extending salutations. The Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, political leader, leader of the opposition, and the next Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, parliamentary colleagues, members of the National Executive, officers of our great party, brothers and sisters assembled here in your numbers. Our hall is completely full. In fact, at this moment now, I'm not even seeing standing room. And I know for a fact that outside of this compound, we have more people than we have inside this compound tonight. Recognize former cabinet ministers of the Great People's Partnership Administration, Mr. Jack Warner, former Attorney General, Mr. Gavin Nicholas, other distinguished members of that administration, brothers and sisters listening in on our various social media platforms in the United States, Canada, Europe, and in the Caribbean. And I know we have several folks throughout the world who are tuning in now. This evening we meet on a rainy, dark night in December to indicate to you that this is the last December of Keith Rowley as Prime Minister of this country. But to get there, we have some work to do. We have to get rid of Keith Rowley and this bunch of incompetent and corrupt government officials. Brothers and sisters, today, I don't have to tell you where crime has reached. They broke into a church today and they stole the kiddies' snack bag that people were preparing for a party later in the week. They thief the treat bag. They hold up the circus. Today, whether we argue that the murder rate according to the TTPS is 587 or according to the Express is 604, that is irrelevant at this moment. This will be the highest record murder in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Under a minister who is asleep half of the time and half awake the next half of the time. Fitzgerald Hines is the most incompetent minister to ever collect a paycheck in the government of Trinidad and Tobago. A few days ago, did you see him, brothers and sisters? On November 24th, I think it was, he playing with 2 drones in the air. Somebody gave him 2 drones as a gift. And he playing with that in the air. I didn't want to tell him what to play with, but he playing with that. When we left the government, we left helicopters, we left functioning sea vessels for the Coast Guard, brothers and sisters. We left equipment for the police to monitor in the prison, grabbers and jammers, electronic monitoring devices and so on. We left state-of-the-art equipment for the police and law enforcement. He playing with 2 drones a few days ago. Brothers and sisters, this level of incompetence must stop. And it must stop at the elections when it is held in a few weeks' time, we are sure. MP Lee told you, Deputy Leader Rowley and that young bosun, they're the best salesman. Well, you might want to believe them because they sell out the country. They sell out the country. And you know something I must tell you before I get into the 2 issues I want to raise. I want to tell you that no government in the history of this country, whether it is the administration of Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, Mr. Manin, Mr. Pandey, George Chambers even, no government has allowed itself to be conned, to be fooled by anyone outside of this country more than Keith Christopher Rowley. He go all over the world with Stuart Young. What is that, around the world in 80 days? What is the fella with Pat Patu or what the fella named the short fella? With umbrella. And anywhere they go, I don't know what they're taken up with. People fool them. A fella in America has received over 10 million US dollars. His name is Art Collins. He's a lobbyist. What do you ask is a lobbyist? We don't know. For the Democrats. And he out of there now. They pay him in US dollars. That is why businessmen cannot get Forex. They can't get $200 in the bank. Art Collins gone with all. The next interesting person came from America. He put on a pinstripe suit. He took a towel in his pocket. Cut his hair and thing and groom up. And he went with the facility at Pointe-à-Pied. Liquid the gas facility down there. Nikon, they call it. They plug on Nikon, they nearly blow up San Fernando. Today, we get conned out of about $100 million. In fact, they made a deal that the profits from Nikon, 25% will go to the government. What profit? We never see penny. That, brothers and sisters, is Keith Rowley for you. But something happened a few days ago I want to draw to your attention. Just on Sunday last, there was an article in the newspaper, in the Sunday newspaper, and the headline was, Warner in the mix. No, that's not Jack Warner. It's not Jack Warner. It's not Jack Warner. Warner in the mix. Referring, it couldn't be Jack Warner because it referred to Rowley friend. He is not Rowley friend. PM's friend Alan Warner contracted for controversial Tobago airport project. Brothers and sisters, we have been watching that project closely. They tried to hide everything with that project. Everything. Everything. We had to watch straight. We had to watch Koki Eye. We had to watch that project. There were corruption issues with land acquisition. There were corruption issues with the recruitment, procurement of contractors. Then we heard of materials. You know, since Rowley in politics, you know, material that's walk across the road. He's the only man where gravel and sand does walk. Always go missing. Always. They have in Tobago this terminal. The Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisasa exposed, revealed, and bust the mark on them for a massive cost overrun on that project of $500 million. $500 million. And growing. Imbert not growing, but the cost overrun growing. Imbert came to a press conference. He said, no, man, them don't know what they're talking about. It's just about, well, he used US because that's song in smaller. He says just $2 million US. So they say, okay, 14 million and so on. When the cabinet note was made public, that it is not that, it is more hundreds of millions of dollars, he called a press conference an hour after. He said, well, I didn't want to say that because I wasn't sure. He wasn't sure what is in a cabinet note. His own note that he took to cabinet, argued for that note. He said he wasn't sure what was in the note. But now that he saw it on the social media, he's sure. Massive cost overruns. Then on the newspaper article, it is very interesting. This Alan Warner has contracts supplying materials to the terminal building. Now that is a terminal building. It is not an airport they're building. They pour scorn and scandal over the Piarco International Airport. And now they just boast this is the leading airport in the Western Hemisphere. They boast about that now. But they scandalize, criminalize that airport. Today, cost overrun $500 million. The friend of the Prime Minister collecting lucrative contracts, not only under one company, but two. Both companies that are supplying materials to the terminal building are the same owner. One, of course, is a straightforward case of Mr. Alan Warner Company, because Warner Company. But the other one is Presticon, which they purchase. And when they purchased that on a UNC platform, right here I believe it was, we raised that. Kevin has a picture to show you. When they purchased that, that is the NP site, and the Beatam, Stuart Young came to the public and he boasts, he said, we dredged the river and clear up that area and the Beatam. First time in 15 years, we happy. What he didn't tell you is the Prime Minister partner just by the company there. So what they were doing is undertaking infrastructure works to facilitate the operations of a private company run by the friend of the Prime Minister. This is a Prime Minister, I could say it inside Parliament, I could say it outside Parliament. He plays golf with people who are chairman of boards of directors. He plays golf with contractors of UDCOT while he is the minister in charge of UDCOT. If that happened under the UNC, you had to come and pick us up on the highway. They drag us on the ground. If that happens, we can't even go to a social function and socialize with people. But Rowley could get away with that. His friends, his family, they get away with that, brothers and sisters. And I ask you to keep an eye on that. terminal project, the terminal building in Tobago. The next matter is a matter in the newspaper as well. I think it was the Saturday headline. We asked in Parliament a question. Now the question is a simple question, require basic mathematics. You think that hard for him, huh? We asked Stuart Young, every time we go to Parliament and Stuart Young is not there, we say, where we gone? They say in Venezuela. We go the next week, where's Stuart Young? In Venezuela. Man, we go the next time, where him? In Caracas. So, we said something is a bit fishy here. We file a question. Mr. Minister, please tell us how many times you have gone to Venezuela. How much did it cost the taxpayer? Who did you go to meet? Simple. Who did you take on your delegation? Ministers travel on a delegation, whether it's 2 people or 10, whatever. They travel with permanent secretary, legal advisor, whatever. You know, in 3 months, they have not answered that question. While to answer that question, a clerk will work out the answer. It will be in the cabinet note, every trip a cabinet note, how much it costs. When you come back, you will say, okay, the minister attended this, the record is, he met with X, Y, and Z, they discussed A, B, and C. Simple, but they will not answer it. The speaker had to write a letter pursuant to a standing order to compel them. But they will not answer that question. Take it from me, they will not, because it's not they cannot, they will not. Because then Stuart Young has to say who he was meeting. He could be meeting people who are now arrested for corruption. He could be meeting people who are sanctioned by the United States. So he's meeting these characters and they will not confess in Trinidad or admit. Then he is going alone. This is a fella that be flying solo. He flying solo, he going alone. I mean, what decent man does go to a business trip alone? So brothers and sisters, he cannot answer that because then he will have to answer who he's meeting, what he's discussing, what clandestine deals they are into. And we will keep on that issue as well because there's a lot of money they have been spending. Today, as Brother Lee told you, this dragon gas business and so on, they only put in dragon gas, and you don't know when this thing will ever happen. In our grandchildren lifetime, we don't know when this is happening. I don't know if Shell has signed on to that as well. The major company involved in that has not even signed on. And with the change of administration in America, that puts it at more doubt, brothers and sisters. So that was one matter we wanted to raise this evening. And the final matter I'll raise in the minute or two remaining, that affects all of us and all of you, whether you live north, south, central, wherever, affects you. The Ministry of Works and Transport today is trying hard to match Fitzgerald Hines as the most incompetent ministry and minister in this country. Have you noticed what has happened on the highway? A small project called an extension project between Shagwanas and Chase Village. Did you notice that? Yesterday it flooded away. And you had to get pumped to go in the middle of the highway. In the middle of the highway, Meru, they make a lane. So they wax the highway now, they wax it. So they put the lane in the middle there. Right? We laughing so far. And they put the lane in the highway and then the middle flood away. They had a pump yesterday pumping water from the highway. When we checked with the Ministry of Works, do you know in that project, they have started the project, stopped the project and restart the project. They use inferior materials. The engineering and design is flawed. And that will not finish. I see the fellow from somewhere around here who looking for vote on the next side. He talk about it opening for Christmas. Which Christmas? Which Christmas? Not this Christmas. That cannot open. If you open that, when you come to the end, you will jump on people's head downstairs, you fly over. You will end up on people's head downstairs, you fly over if you open that. You cannot open that. There's a walk path in the middle. The UNC government put a walk path there because of an accident. Many accidents, but a fatal accident once. And we put the walk path there. You know they're running the extension under the walk path? And forget that it's planted in the middle of the road? That is the corruption. Yeah, they're running the extension around the post. When you go to Claxton Bay, there's an iron wall in Claxton Bay facing you. You see that? There was a crash last week sometime. Injuries, not fatality. Injuries, car destroyed and so on. We warned them. That project started at $4 million. It was a landslip that they had to fix. Landslip started at $4 million. Today the project now is $27 million for that project. 27 million, and the iron standing up from the ground. There's an iron wall. Nothing is happening. When that project is finished, it will be about $50 million squandered by this administration. Throughout the country, I challenge you, go by any Ministry of Works project. Watch on a board, if they have a board. The completion date, it will be last year or the year before. While that is happening, brothers and sisters, the infrastructure is the worst it has ever been. I don't have to tell you about the infrastructure, you know it. In the San Fernando waterfront project, they will come in a few days, weeks, to boast about waterfront project in San Fernando. What waterfront project in San Fernando? The water is now on the road. But you know a piece of that place built on San Fernando, on this highway, byway place. Do you know grass started to grow on the highway? Grass is growing down there on the highway. It is flooding away. There is absolutely no development. This PNM has nothing to show. And because they have nothing to show, they will come with scandal and allegations and want to talk about all type of things, the partnership this, the partnership that. I want to tell you, remind them, your family, your friends, your community, that under the People's Partnership, we had prosperity, we had opportunity, we had jobs, we had healthcare, we had education, we built schools, man, we built everything. Under police station, hospitals, everything we built. People had jobs. When you go around, as Jolene told you earlier, and you speak to people, they remind you. A gentleman told me, he said, boss, I want to tell you the last time we got an increase on our pension is under Kamla Prasad Bisesa. I tell them that will be the next time you get an increase in your pension too. That will be the next time you get an increase in your pension will be under Kamla Prasad Bisesa as well. Everywhere you go, people come up to us. I will end with this note telling you, don't be fooled. Don't take the chain up from people, as we say. Anywhere you go in this country, sometimes it shock me. Sometimes it shock even me. Anywhere I go, people shake my hand, of all religion, all creed, all race, every size too. And they come up to me and they say, hey, 99% sure. I said, only 1%. He said, they go vote for you too. So, everywhere people are telling you that the PNM government under Rowley is over. They are over. And the country is dying, is crying for change. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa is the only political leader that understands the mood of this country, that understands the aspirations of this country. She has a plan. She has a plan. She has a policy. And she has the personnel to reform, to change, and to take this country and turn it around from this distressing doomsday place that we live in today. So brothers and sisters, in this season of goodwill, stay strong, be hopeful, be optimistic, be positive that in the new year, the government of Trinidad and Tobago will be the United National Congress under Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Long live the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Long live the UNC. I love you all.